Hi, this video is in relation to the StatCrunch technology step-by-step instructions. This was posted on Monday, 16th of September, uh, 2019. That's this week, and that's the material that's supposed to help you through um, the assignment and also on the exam on how to use StatCrunch to do the various computations. Keep in mind that StatCrunch is to assist you with the computations, and so you also need to understand the material in order to be able to use StatCrunch efficiently. So I'll show you the PDF file which was posted on Canvas, and then I will also guide you through one of the interactive assignments, and we see how to use the material which was posted. So let's get into it. Okay, so this is the material I'm referring to. So you see here StatCrunch technology step by step, and so you open this. It's in the announcement. It's been posted, and I think I prompted you, and I also notified a couple of you who asked me questions regarding the use of StatCrunch on the assignment. So this is where to find it. It's in announcements, and that is the name StatCrunch technology step by step instruction, chapter 1 through chapter 10. So keep in mind you will need to print this out and use for the exam as well. So anything related to StatCrunch, you will definitely find it here in this file I'm about to show you. So let's see. This is section 3.3 interactive assignments, and so I will use this one to show you the use of the PDF or the file I just spoke about. So this is it. If you open the file, this is what you see. New StatCrunch technology step by step. And so it contains all the various sections. As you can see, it's well organized based on the section. So we have material for section 1.3, material for section 2.1, material for section 2.2, etc. But this is for section 3.3, so we will be mainly using material from 3.3, which is right here, measures of central tendency and dispersion from grouped data. But some of the questions are based on old sections, and the questions have been labeled so that you can easily identify. For instance, the first question in the interactive assignments is from section 2.2, and so to do this one you need to go to section 2.2. Although it's in 3.3, you need to go to section 2.2. So this is section 2.2. Okay, so let's see, what do we need from 2.2? We want to construct frequency distribution for this given data. Now this data is discrete, so we go to the first item here, which says frequency and relative frequency distributions for discrete of discrete data, and these are the steps to follow. So it says enter the raw data. In our case, the data would always be entered. You can always open the data in StatCrunch, so you don't need to enter the data yourself. You just need to open it in StatCrunch and then follow the rest of the instructions. So we need to open the data in StatCrunch, select Stat. So let's follow the instructions and see what we get. So this is how to get the data in StatCrunch. We open this link right here, open in StatCrunch, and this is the data open in StatCrunch. And therefore, what do we need? We want a frequency table. So the instructions are select Stat. So we have Stat, and then highlight tables. This is tables, and then select frequency. So we select frequency. Then the third step, we need to click on the variable that we wish to summarize, and the variable here is number of potholes, so that is selected. Once you click on it, it moves to this box which tells you it's been selected. And then the next thing is we want to see the frequency table, and it would also give us the relative frequency. So this is where we choose what we want. You could decide to do just the frequency. If you click on this, it only gives you frequency, but if you want both, you click on you hold down the control and select relative frequency to select both, to choose both of them, and then just click on compute, and it does it for you straight away. So with this, you just need to enter the values you have here into these boxes in order to complete the assignment, to complete this exercise. So the frequencies are 11, 5, so just enter them as you see, 6, 5, 2, 4, 2, so 2 here, 4, and then 2, and yeah, so that checks out. So that is how we get the frequency table. Then this is the relative frequency. Fortunately, we also included the relative frequency, so it shows up here. So you just need to enter the relative frequency just like we did for the frequency, and make sure you round to 3 decimal places as needed, and that should complete it for this particular exercise. Let's move to the next one. Yes, I want to move on. Okay, so you need to okay, let's do this also. So here the data is in this box. You need to open this, and then here we see the data, and then we click on this little icon here, which gives us the start crunch. So we have the data now in start crunch. Okay, so this is a binned data, right? So we want to get the frequency table once again. Once you open the data, you can close this. So it's a frequency table once again, but this time around for a bin data. And therefore, let's see from the instructions, how do we work on the bin data. So for bin data, we use the bin type of table for the continuous data. So here, let's go to the instructions and see what it says. So relative frequency and relative frequency distributions of continuous data. So like we already know, the data has been entered in TouchCrunch, so we don't need to do that one. So it says select data and highlight bin. So we select the data and then we highlight bin. So this is bin, right? Okay. All right. So what do we do next? Click the variable you wish to summarize, and the variable we wish to summarize is variable 1. That is the variable 1 from the data. And in the question we were asked to use 35,000 as the lower class limit for the first class, and then the class width is 5,000, and so we choose the option to enter our own start and bandwidth. If you choose automatic, StartCrunch will use its own automatic setting, but then you choose use fixed with bins, then it allows you to enter your start value as well as the bin width. So here the start value is 35,000, and then the bin width here is 5,000, and then we compute this. Okay, so when you do this, it gives you the data now as binned. So every value here belongs to some bin, and these are the bins that we see over here, or group basically, and these are the groups that we see over here. So after you do this, we have the data in bins now. So what next? It says select start and highlight tables, then frequency. So just the usual procedure now. So we go to start and then tables, and we want frequency, so we choose frequency. Now once you've binned the data, that is going to be our new variable, so we use the bin data, and then we construct the frequency and relative frequency for the bin data. So compute, yes, and this is what we have. So now we go to the exercise and enter the values. So the first income has a lower class limit of 35,000, so we enter that, and then an upper class limit. So pay attention. So here we don't want the classes to overlap, and so although the class is supposed to end at 40,000, we don't use 40,000 because 40,000 is the starting point for the next class. So we rather enter 1 point less. So that is 39,999. Okay, and then the frequency for that class, is right here. So you enter the frequency as well, which is 1, and yeah, so that is the answer for that. And then we keep doing this for the rest of the classes. So the next class will start from 40,000 and then go all the way to, so instead of 45,000 we go one less, so that should be 44,999, and then the frequency for that class is 5, and that is also what we have. And so you just keep doing this for the rest of the classes, and that will complete this part of the assignment. Let's move on to the next one. Yes. Okay, so for this one, you don't need StatCrunch to do this one. Suppose the first class in the frequency table of quantitative data is 0 to 4, and the second is 5 to 9. You want to find the class midpoint. So this is not, you don't need StatCrunch for this. So let's move on. I just want to show you how to use StatCrunch, so let me focus on that. So when doing this, you need to make sure you read the material, and then these things will become easy. Watch the video and familiarize yourself, and once you do that, you also refer to the PDF I'm showing you here. Okay, so the next problem here is on so this one we have the data already in bins or in groups, and then their corresponding frequencies, and this question is asking you to approximate the mean. So let's see what StatCrunch. I mean, it's just the same idea, but let's see where to find the instructions for this particular one. So it's still going to be here basically. So let's go into StatCrunch and get the table for this. So the data is already binned, right? So we go to Stat and then Summary. Now, because the data is binned, we want the summary for the grouped data. Summary simply gives you all the values, the mean, the standard deviations, and so on and so forth. So because the data is grouped, I'm not selecting. If the data is not grouped, we just go to columns. The instructions are in the StatCrunch technology PDF. But for mine, since the data is grouped, I need to use grouped or binned data. So that is selected. And then I go to the data for which I want to find the mean. And so that is the monthly pizza cost. I want the approximate mean of these costs. So I select that as my variable. And once that is in bins, I also need to include the frequency of each group. So the frequency would be the number of students in this case. So that's the number of students. So you select the variable, and then you select its corresponding the frequency for that particular variable you want to work on. So monthly pizza cost, and then the number of students for each category. Okay, and then here all these have been selected for us, the standard deviation and so on and so forth. So what we need here is the mean and the standard deviation, but we can just compute everything. They show up here. Whatever you select is showing here. So the mean is selected and represents the size of the data or the sample. Okay, so we compute, and this is it. So we have the information. So here in this table we see the mean, and that is what this is asking for, rounded to the nearest cent. So here our mean to the nearest cent, observing from here, is 34.67. that is from our output. Okay, and then we move on to the next one. I believe the next one is the standard deviation, which should be the last for this section. This one you don't need StatCrunch. The instructions on this is provided on the previous slide, so you can do this one. So the standard deviation. Okay, so this is it. This is the data we want, the approximate standard deviation for the cost. I believe it's the same data we saw earlier on. So if it's the same data, you may not want to compute again, but it doesn't have to do it again. So the approach is you open the data in StatCrunch. It's already binned, and so we go to Stat, and then we go to Summary, and then to grouped or binned data, and then we select the variable for which we want the average or the mean, which is the monthly cost, the monthly coffee cost, and then the frequency comes here, which is the number of students, and then we compute. So for this data, the standard deviation is right here, that's 10.86, and we also want this to the nearest cent, so that will be 10.86. Okay, so that is it, and so that is all. Basically, that is all you need to do for this interactive assignment. So it's easy once you follow the instructions in the StatCrunch technology step by step. Everything is out here. It's laid out clearly and very well organized based on the sections. So please refer to this and keep a copy of this for your use on the exam. Our first exam is next week, Thursday, on 26th. Yeah, on 26th. So make sure you have this ready, printed out for use on the exam, and make sure you are familiar with it and know where to find the various instructions on how to use StatCrunch. So the exam would cover material from chapter 1 through chapter 3, so you need to make sure you know how to do all these stuff from chapter 1 through chapter 3. You don't have to memorize them necessarily, but be familiar, know where to find the instruction and how to use it on the assignments, and then also on the exam. Okay, so that said, the last thing I will say is you should pay attention to the announcements that are posted, because most of these information are there, and if you don't read the announcement, you might miss them. So please read the announcements, and when I send out emails, it's important that you pay attention to them as well. Thank you.